Hello and welcome to my modern medieval kitchen. This is where I'll take medieval and Renaissance recipes and make in my modern kitchen with my modern equipment. Today we are going to make a dish with a very weird name. In Danish it's called mortræas, and the name doesn't mean anything, and it's not like a dish that you make today. So I think I made medieval food for like 15 years, and I just always like skipped that recipes because I just thought that's just a weird name. That's not something that you're going to make today. But then one day I actually read the recipes and I thought, okay, that's just meat boiled in wine. What's not to love about that? Let's try it. And now I tried it a couple of times and it's really nice dish. So today I'm going to use some pork. It's important that it actually got some fat in it. Then I have some chicken and a piece of bread. You can also use flour, but in medieval time you would just take an old dry piece of bread and make breadcrumbs from. So that's what I'm going to do. Then I have some red wine. The recipe it just says wine, so you can use white wine or red wine. That depends on what you like. Then I got some egg yolks, some salt and pepper, and some cinnamon. And normally I would always say to grind or mortar the spices yourself, but cinnamon is just impossible to get fine enough. It always end up being like bigger pieces of cinnamon, which is not very nice to eat. So as the only spice, I would recommend actually buying pre-mortared. It's cinnamon. So I'm going to start with the meat. The recipe actually calls out for like chopping it up and grind it very finely in a mortar. That's maybe why it's called mortraeas, because it sounds like using a mortar. I have tried it where I've grinded very finely, and it's not something that I, for my modern taste, really like. I like to have something to chew in, so I am going to chop it up quite finely, but I'm not going to grind it in the mortar. But yeah, I'll start chopping both the chicken and the pork. So here you have the meat. You have the chicken over here, and you got the pork. As you can see, I haven't like totally smashed the meat. As I said, I like to have something to chew on. I don't really like the totally minced meat, but of course, if you like that, you can put it in a mortar and make it even more fine, or you can actually just use pre-minced meat from the supermarket. So if you're just using a piece of dry bread, you just have to remove the crust, because the crust doesn't really do anything. It's just hard to boil out. Because the point, you're just gonna crumble it as much as you can with your hands. The point in using bread, like old dry bread, is that the dish will thickens up, just as when you today use flour. But in medieval times, flour could be quite expensive. So when you just have an old bread that is too dry for you to eat, you can just put it in whatever dish you want to thicken up. So yeah, just try to crumble it with your hands. Some recipes also says that you can use a grater. I don't think that's necessary, especially not if it's like a modern piece of sliced bread. It's not that easy to use a grater, but if you got like a whole loaf of dry bread, that might be easy to just use that. But yeah, now I think it's crumbled up, and when you're going to boil this with the rest of the ingredients, the bread will dissolve itself, so hopefully you shouldn't have any bread lumps. Otherwise you should have either made the bread smaller, or you should boil it for some more time. And that's also why I'm taking off the crust, because the crust will never really dissolve. It's just going to stay there, and it's not really nice to have like crust in your dish. Yeah, I think that's about it. So the original recipe actually calls out for using a frying pan, and then just take the meat and the breadcrumbs and the wine all at once. I actually like to start off with frying the meat a bit before I add the wine and the breadcrumbs. So I'm also using a casserole because I think that makes the wine not evaporate so much as when you're using a pan. I added a bit of oil just so that the meat won't stick to the casserole. Then I'm going to add the breadcrumbs. I'm not going to use all of them, just like that I think. Just a quick stir. And then I'm going to add the wine. Right now I actually only have 1 deciliter of wine, and I don't think that's enough. No, I'm going to add some more wine. I'm just going to add so that it will cover the meat. And then I will let it get to a boiling point, and then it has to boil for like 20 minutes or so. If the wine are evaporating too much, you can either add more wine or you can add a bit of chicken stock. So now the meat has been boiling with the wine, and I also added a bit of chicken stock for like 20 minutes, half an hour. I am going to add some salt and pepper. And then I have the egg yolks, where I'm going to add a bit of red wine. Whisk it together. And then adding it to the dish. Making sure to combine it very well. And then turn up the heat again. And then it has to thicken a bit, just like the last dish, the corn porridge. Now you can see that it is thickening because of the egg yolks. Be sure not to give it too much heat. But I think this looks just fine. And of course, remember to taste it again and see if you have added enough salt and pepper to your own liking. So the dish is almost ready. Here I have served it with the corn porridge that I made last time. The only thing that I'm missing is a key ingredient in the medieval kitchen, and it is the cinnamon. The recipe calls out for just putting it on top of your dish. So there you have it.